when you're asking someone for advice, it's not, whatever they say isn't from a point of malicious intent.
Of course.
And sometimes they might say something that can hurt, but you need to be able to deal. And before you even ask, don't ask to expect the answer that you want to hear.
100%.
Ask
I think
to
that's
hear
great.
something new.
Well put.
Ask to hear something that you're not
Well put.
expecting or understood.
Well
And if the
put.
person doesn't tell you something that you're not expecting, ask them to tell you something new. I've got a little time management hack. And that's a case of splitting up your time into 70, 20 and 10%. And that's around looking at spending 70% of your time on what brings you the most money right now, 20% on your side hustle, and then 10% on the future goal. Your business is your baby and you're nurturing it. But if you're too close to it emotionally, you're not going to be able to grow. You need to make sure you're uncomfortable. Get out of the comfort zone and be uncomfortable and be receptive to criticism.
We began as an open mic.
Young creatives simply wanting to express ourselves.
As we supported each other, we started to witness the greatest within.
And without knowing, we grew into a talent hub.
As we began to detail our craft,
we found the courage to share our gift with the world.
From merchandise to the sold-out theatre productions.
To all the amazing people we met and collaborated with along the way.
The process of creating art helped us overcome our fears.
By teaching us
the power of art. We are here to tell you.
We're here to tell you.
We're here to tell you.
We are here to tell you.
We are here to tell you.
It's possible.
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 I'm Chad Isaacs, and this is Raw.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, 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 very special guest in the house tonight. This man is a conceptual developer. This man was recently awarded the vice presidency of the Golden Key. This man is a promoter. He's a strategist. He's one of the kindest guys that I personally know. And if that wasn't enough, he was also one of the creators of the Better app, a new way to work with money, or I think the right word is a new culture of money. And most importantly, he's the founder and CEO of the agency. In Cape Town, we call him the human connector. Mr. Jamie Thurston Wyngaard, ladies and gentlemen.
Gosh. You really I feel like you're overselling me there. I'm even like, yo, I want to meet this guy. who's this guy?
Brother, thank you so much. I know you're an extremely busy guy. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, bro. So for the people listening out there, I just want to explain why I called you the human connector. You played a very key role in my business come up in the industry. When we had the record label, you gave Ethnic the opportunity to not only perform alongside Jimmy Nevis, but I think at the end of the day, he opened up for her.
It actually happened that Jimmy opened for Ethnic.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, the gigs that you got for the likes of David Neal and Ethan Young and Kirby Joe very early in their career at the City Hall. And then also when the beginning of Raw, you helped us, generate some hype with regards to sorting out the Twitter and showing us how to utilize Twitter to our advantage very early on, which gave us a sort of advantage very much in the beginning of Raw's introduction to the industry. All of those things played a key part to where I am and where all my businesses are today. So I'm entirely grateful to you.
I didn't even know that. Like, when I met you, I just saw what you were doing, and I thought this guy's doing a good job. So when I came with opportunities, it was a case of, here's an amazing artist, here's a cool guy, he's doing the most. And when it came to looking for another artist for a gig, or when I had an opportunity when people used to ask me for artists, I knew I could reference to you.
Appreciate that, brother.
I don't think I'm the one you should be thanking. It's really a case of you. You put in the hard work.
Thank you, bro.
And you made yourself get into a position where you were recognized as the one I thought about when I needed artists.
I appreciate that, brother. So you obviously connected to so much different people. And I think a common issue in our industry is the relationship, the explanation of how a relationship should be, and then the gaps in that relationships, and the relationships and the gaps that I'm talking about is between three components, which is your creatives, right? Your brands and your investors. So I mean, you as a business developer and a specialist in startups, how do you advise these young creatives? How can they go about bridging those gaps and developing those relationships?
No, I think you're spot on. There's a whole thing of relationships when you think like this is going to be a Dr. Phil talk here going on, but you're spot on there. I think there's a lot of different elements that make up I'm going to call this a business. And I think a lot of arts and creatives need to start seeing themselves as a business. Yes, you might like singing, you might like art, you might like dancing, but if you want to take this seriously, it's not the case of I'm a singer, I'm a performer. You are a business. And like any business, and the way I'll talk to entrepreneurs or when people come to the startups, I'll refer to you as an artist, also as an entrepreneur in this case, but you need to understand that you can't do everything yourself. And I think that's where you're also coming from, of having these different points to connect with. And often business people think they must be the CEO, they must be the accountant, they must be the marketer, they must be the lawyer, they must be all these things. But the real situation is you can't be all those things. And what I would advise to anybody is get someone that can do it better than you. So in your case, you've someone that can do a lot, and you work with artists and they focus on their work as an artist, and you focus at all the other stuff. Or you and your team focus on other things. So when it comes to this connection of the relationship between your market, your investors, and your actual artist, as an artist, you're the product, and you develop your product, you develop your craft, and then you get things from the business side is how does this get marketed to the right market? So who is my market? Who is my audience? And there's a whole lot of things that we do on that side around design thinking about identifying your market. And then who are the investors? Who's paying for this? How is this making money? What is the return on investment? And investment isn't always about money. Investment is about time. I would really say it's the same thing. What are you worth time-wise? And you can equate an actual money value to time, but that's the case of looking at, is what I'm doing right now worth it for the amount of money I'm making or the amount of effort I'm putting into this? And the same thing from a manager side or investor side, or even your audience member is investing their time and money to come to see you. Is it worth it? Are you giving them the money's worth? And the main thing is there value in everything? So I would say it's not just a simple love triangle entanglement. It's literally a web of how all these things are connected. The biggest thing I can say is make sure you know your role and make sure you know the role of your team. And it might be difficult in the beginning to put a team together. And that's why a lot of people do most of the things themselves. But if you're good at what you do, it'll be, if you know what you're doing and why you believe in what you're doing, and you start showing other people what your vision and plan is, and if they can start seeing what your vision is and they can fit into your vision, then it's not difficult finding a team. You'll literally be able to find a really good solid team. And I'm sure I think we have a look at Raw now and a look at even just sitting in this room with you. It's not just the two of us, it's not just you alone even. You've got a team here.
100%.
And there's even people behind the scenes that's working with you. And that's because they've also seen and believe in your vision. And collectively, they have a collective vision that they can work towards.
100%. I think I always have to say this because I think with Raw, it's a little bit different for me. Everything that you said, I agree with 100%. I always have to say this, like with Raw, it was something special. There was something in the air. There was something poetic about it. There was something that almost has that Cinderella story to it, where I couldn't have planned on paper a better business. Financially, of course, yes, but in terms of the opportunities, in terms of the relationships that was formed. And like you said, business is not always about money. Not always. It's about time. And is that time that you spent working so hard, did you develop your craft? Did you create relationships? Did you become a better person? Did you add value to other people's lives? And Raw ticked all those boxes for me and many other people. And I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day. In your what I wanted to say, and a light bulb just struck when you were talking and when you said you have to realize that being able to get where you want to be, and I paraphrase, it's not just about you, man. You need a team. You need other people to do things. And I think you must have realized this very early on, in terms of your growth, in terms of the people that are now, almost gravitating towards you. Because I think you've always had this kindness, this always very, sincere way about you.
I don't know where you see that. I feel like I'm not a nice person. I feel like I need to be kinder. I feel like I need to be nicer.
No, bro. Very humble. I can honestly say it's very humble, very sincere, very kind. And I think that's because you understand that to scale, right, to get better, to improve, it's always going to require people. Whether you like it or not. And I just, from my own personal experience, people might disagree, but from my own personal experience, developing a relationship always matures much faster when you were the one to say, how can I help you?
Okay, quote it, what's it, FNB?
yeah. But you understand what I'm saying. So in your opinion, do you think that it is possible to be extremely successful, be a big corporate CEO, multiple franchises, and be kind? Because the picture that people normally paint is, you have to outwork everybody and you have to be a dick. Basically, you have to be that guy. So is there a way for people to be compassionate, kind, and empathetic?
The way I really feel it, I don't think there's a formula for that. I really feel that the kindness comes from yourself, or how kind or how you treat people comes from you. I wouldn't say that you must be a certain way, because people behave differently, and they're also gone through different things. So it's not my place to say whether someone is good or bad, or being a dick or being a asshole or something, because you do see these people, but you don't know what's going on in their lives and why they are that way. So I'm not going to say their way is wrong, because you can see some people have made it in life and they're called assholes. Then there's also people, I think they said Richard Branson is the yes man, because he never says no to anything. But it's how you manage yourself. And it's also a case of, how would you measure kindness? Because to me, you telling me that I'm kind, and on my side, I'm thinking I'm not kind enough. So, and I might be meeting people and I think is kind, and they might think, or I might be people think they're not kind, but to them, they trying to be as kind as they can. So
100%. And I think kindness is something that you can't really measure, but you can feel. You can, this is what, this is a kind guy.
Maybe it's a case of empathy. It's a case of being able to relate to who you're dealing with, and almost like, I don't know, I'm losing words in this, because this isn't something where there's a rule to it. There isn't like a physical law when it comes to emotions. But when it comes to people and feelings, it's just what I'll say. I'm not gonna quote the Bible, but do unto others as you want others to do unto. How do you want to be treated, and are you empathetic to how someone else is behaving or feeling? Are you gonna just consider yourself, which is okay when it comes to business? I can't say things aren't okay, but then also, do you consider other people? And there is that balance, I think, when if you look at the ladder of success, do you do it where you need to get yourself there first and then help people up, or not help people up, or do you try to push everyone up from the bottom, but then you stay in behind? And there is that balance around it, because I also believe you can only help people as far as you've gotten. So you also need to try to get yourself up and then bring people along with you.
100%. And that was well answered, bro. That was the answer that I was looking for, because it is a little bit of both.
You don't have to always agree with me.
No, but
you
for
can't
real,
cause a fight.
But for real, no, because the thing is, I like, because I want to leave myself open and learn from you, because there's no point in me dictating, my beliefs. We got you in studio because you have a specific skill set that people need to learn. So, I mean, like, when it comes to business and when it comes to life, sometimes there are conflicting, situations. And I do agree, and that's why you need both, because sometimes if you're too kind, the boundaries get
really
stepped and you know what I mean? And then you actually become almost tired of being a giver, of helping, of, you know what I mean? And then you shut yourself off because you've been burned so many times, and then you actually become worse than just the guy who's just the upfront dick. But also in the same breath, like you also need to be, if you're working with staff, if you're working with different kinds of people from different kinds of backgrounds, right? For instance, if you like a single guy who lives in a penthouse and you're the CEO of the company, and maybe one of your directors just had a kid, and she's not getting as much sleep as she could, you have to be empathetic. You just you don't have a kid, so you don't understand, but you have to know that she's in that situation. So you need to, but she's great at the job, so you're going to need to have that sort of balance to say, okay, cool, she's a great worker, but I'm going to give her this leeway because I understand the situation in life. So there needs to be that dance, that almost ebb and flow.
It's a case of, I think, effective planning, because if you're the CEO of a company, while you're busy saying a single guy living in a penthouse, you're busy calling me out because that's my life right now, just that I don't have any pregnant staff. But I would say it's a case of being able to plan things up, because okay, if your staff is pregnant, do you have a contingency plan of who's going to be doing that work when the staff isn't there? Then you can know. And I think that's the case of being a good leader, is having your plan sorted and having what could go wrong or what could jeopardize the company or what could make us have slower progress. Then it wouldn't matter how many of your staff get pregnant, because you have a process that's gonna flow.
100%. My next question is, are you a machine? Because the way your thought process, since I've met you, bro, it's extremely logical. It's like it's even in your answers now, it's like super logical. Can you take us through how can creatives start thinking and have that balance of thinking a bit more logically when it comes to their craft?
You calling me a machine, and I've been called out before, because I think me as social Jamie, but then work Jamie is completely different. You get in a taste of work Jamie with the logical side, but that's when I don't want to say emotionless, because I don't want to be emotionless. I think there's a lot of creativity from the emotion side, but when it comes to planning, it's about facts. 100%. And it might also be my science background, because I studied UDIT at UWC in biotechnology, and I've always been fascinated with science. So maybe what I've learned in my biotech studies and the methods and methodologies, and I've taken that and applied that to different things. I think that also sets me apart when it comes to business.
100%.
That's something what I tell people about university. People also ask, because I actually didn't finish my studies. I had 6 months left of my biotech degree. And at the same time, while I was studying biotech, I was busy working, and I started my business. And my business was flourishing. And the biggest lie I told myself, you can always go back to finish your studies.
You know that. Come on, Jamie. Come on now. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, but it was really interesting about that, because when people ask, should I go study, what's the importance of education, I'll always say, go study. If you can get into university, go to university. There was a service that I made also with Standard Bank. If you can't afford to go to university, come tell me also. Go on to Google or whatever, type in phoenix.org, FEENIX. That was one of my babies that I started a few years ago, 4 years ago, before I started Better, before I joined the Better team. And Phoenix crowdfunds for funds. And right now, Phoenix has put a whole lot of students through university, over 40 million rand that we've paid out already to students for university. And I'll always advocate for university or any form of studies because of the network you create at university. And the thing with studying, I don't have a degree right now, but the thing with studying is you go to an institution not to become a scientist or to become a lawyer or to become... people say, I'm going to study this to become that. Yeah. And I think it's the other way around. I didn't go to university to become a scientist or a lawyer or a psychologist. You go study science to think like a scientist. You go study law to think like a lawyer. You study psychology to think like a psychologist. You study accounting to think like an accountant. And you can take that way of thinking and you can apply it to any other form of your life or your business or your relationships. And that's what I think is what you should take out of it. Because if I look at a lot of people that study things, they studied... People in my class, they studied biotechnology and they're not biotechnologists today.
I think that's the amazing thing about studying. I mean, I studied architecture and I studied marketing, both things, right? And for me, at the end of the day, I've learned more through business. I finished both, but I mean, I've learned more through business. I've learned more things about life and I've learned more things about myself. You know, through business, because at the end of the day, it's all on you, and it's not about getting 80%. Because in life, you got to do it 100. There's no margin for error, because the margins are fine, and it has implications and consequences to it. So that, I mean, a normal person say, 80%, yeah, but the 20%, I mean, on a day at work is severe.
Sounds like you're being hard on yourself. It's okay not to get 100%, but also then look at what are you missing in that 20% and can you learn it.
And what I wanted to say, James, is that I think the problem with studying in the new generation is it's become about labels. It's become about, I want the certificate. It's not about the certificate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You study something to learn and be able to capable of doing, and that is the certificate. Being able to do it.
If you look at things now, even a lot of corporates are changing their ways. Corporates used to ask for, let me see your qualifications. But even I've learned that someone can be qualified in something, but when it comes to doing the job, they're not always able to do it. Then there's someone that isn't qualified, but can do the job way better.
For sure.
And the thing now, it's literally with this whole gig economy and becoming a freelancer and all these other things, especially now with what happened with Corona, where people started to see they can work from home, they can work remotely. It has been a case of this thing of qualification over being able to do the job. I don't want to call it experience, because you can do the job even without experience.
100%.
So, and then also some people are ridiculous with 100 years experience or something for a job.
You must first die before you can work for this company.
Yeah. But
please attach your death certificate.
Yeah, please attach your certificate. But there is a case of not needing the degree, just being able to do the job.
Of course.
And that's even something I strive for with my team. I say, look at your opportunities, look at what you can do. And if you can show me you can do the job, then go ahead. If you can't, we're going to learn and we're going to fix it. But if you can, it doesn't matter what you studied before.
100%, bro. And like, because for me, I want creatives to flourish as business people. I want them, and I also, from my own personal experience, is like, mistakes is inevitable. Like, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna make bad choices. You just have to learn from it and sort of have, I mean, you were a strategist, you know that the planning and all of those stuff is important. But sometimes, like you were telling me off air, sometimes you do the planning and stuff also doesn't work out. Right? So you just have to have that attitude, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to do my best to do the research and put the numbers together and then take the leap. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to measure and calculate why it didn't work and go to the next one.
That is spot on. The whole thing's about testing. And even when you think something is perfect, go test it, go try it out. And you're going to always, I think the problem is when you think something is perfect. Because a lot of, if I just refer back to other companies, if you look at what happened to Blockbuster. Right now, Blockbuster's gone, of renting videos.
Yeah, of course.
But the story behind that is Netflix actually came to them and said, hey, we made this cool streaming service. 100%. Would you guys like to buy this? And Blockbuster said, no, our business is perfect. We don't need to
100%.
Buy this stupid thing of who wants to stream movies online. And Netflix is flourishing.
Of course.
And Blockbuster's gone.
But that's ego, of course.
No, that's a case of thinking that your business model is perfect.
Which is ego.
You need to literally always, technically ego.
It's ego.
You need to literally keep on re-looking, reworking, and always, I would say, no matter what it is, whether you're a musician, what's coming next? Whether you you're baking pies, what's the next flavor? What's the next kind of paste?
Do you also see the patterns? I mean, you have to, as a strategist, you have to see that the pattern is that there's always something that's gonna take your place. So you either have to be the one that's testing the new thing that's coming, right? Because you don't want to be the guy that says, back in my day, we used to do it the old you know, like, you know what I mean? Exactly, because those guys never win at the end of the day. Those are the Blockbusters. Those are like the post office, you know. Those are all things that are no longer relevant in today's age. So
soon banks will be relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the main thing with banks.
100%. And talking about banks, you are... it's a beautiful segue to the Better app, which is something completely mind-blowing. So, can I pick your brain on that? Like, what is the Better app all about?
Okay, I'm gonna
break it down.
Pass this whole thing onto the Better marketing team
when
this whole thing goes live. Because I'm sure we can give a whole lot more information. So my role at Better, I was the chief community officer, and that was looking at using design thinking to look at what do the people want and what are the features. So if I tell you a bit before Better, so I used to work with Standard Bank in the innovations lab. And what we did there was look at ways to build little services that can plug into Standard Bank. And I started doing the research for Standard Bank around banking and around international banks and what they're doing and how they're working. And there was a big trend towards digital banks. This was like 5 years ago. South Africa might not have been ready for it. South Africa tried some digital banking, and more banking apps started popping up with our banks. But the things around apps and services and digital banking and all this type of things, you could see that certain things could become redundant. You don't need to go into a branch anymore. You don't need to do even simple stuff like you send someone a EFT and it takes 3 days for the money to come through. Why? Why is that even the case? And it's just a case of just banks just making more money. Because look, if a bank can charge you for an instant EFT, and a banking, then that doesn't mean they can't give you an instant EFT. 100%. Just that they want to make more money out of you. And it doesn't make sense why. Well, it makes business sense, but it doesn't make sense to the customer why certain things are happening. And when I got the opportunity, Toby van Zyl, the CEO of Better, when he approached me and he said he wants to start a new bank, and I'm like, bro, he was telling me what his plans were. I'm like, dude, everything you are saying is exactly the stuff I've been telling Standard Bank. Like, hey, this is things that I want to get into and things that I want to do. So left Standard Bank and started our own little venture making a bank. And it might have sounded, if I look back and think, that sounds crazy. Imagine someone comes to you and says, start a bank. That's like,
can I ask you a question since you have such in-depth knowledge about banks, right? And firstly, let me just say that we're not throwing shade on anyone in any way, shape or form, right? But do banks, because I've heard this, I'm not sure, I mean, it's no credibility to the source, but I've just heard it, and I wondered if it was real, and I'm sure you know it. Do banks do like monthly, sort of, all different banks, the leaders of all these different banks get together every month, and do they sort of come up with sort of business laws that sort of are generic?
I don't know if the leaders of the banks do that. I was never invited to one of these parties. But I wouldn't even put it. I don't know. I can't. I might not.
Do you know what I mean? Because for instance, for there to be an even playing field, certain laws would have to be generic. You understand what I'm saying, man?
Conferences, and I have attended the Money conference that was in Dublin. That's where like most of the fintechs and whatever get together and have discussions or show what's new or whatever. So that I've been to. But when it comes to laws, I know that there's the Reserve Bank and there's all these other regulations. And I don't know if I wouldn't encourage anyone to open a bank, to start a bank, because it's so expensive. Like, well, literally, you pay fees to services and stuff that you don't. It doesn't make sense to me. But that part of banking is over my head, and I didn't even go do the proper research around 100%. What goes on around banking law. Leave that for the account. Like I said, find someone that can do it better than you. Leave that for the accountants and those people.
So what makes this app like special? What makes it different from anyone else? From a normal bank?
From a normal bank, okay. Firstly, I would say the AI behind it. It's a completely no brick and mortar building. So the first thing is that I would maybe say the cost. Our expenses are extremely low, so then we can pass that savings on to customers. So we're not charging you for things that you don't have to use. Because when last were you in a bank branch? Might have not even been in the past 3 months or whatever, but banks are still charging you for that rent that they're paying for that. So our costs are down for that. Also because of the AI behind it, we're able to figure things out much quicker. There's no humans involved, so there's no human error. The only humans on the coding side. But you literally have a little AI inside your phone. So with the AI and being on your phone, higher security, because the only way someone can actually physically do something is by actually having your phone and you logging in with your biometrics to let the person do something on your phone.
So it's fingerprint only?
Yep. It depends on which device you have, because it can be fingerprint, it can be voice, PIN, it can be face recognition.
PIN also, obviously.
The what?
PIN, like for whatever.
Oh, the PIN. I thought you said pen. I'm like, what do you do with the PIN? There's no paper in our bank. And that's also another thing that we have. Besides the AI, it's completely paperless. So buying a house, buying a car, taking out insurance, there's no need to do paperwork on that. And I don't know if you've purchased a car or a house before. Some of the stuff is so redundant. Like you fill out one form and then you send that form away. They send you another form with exactly the same information. Like, why couldn't you just take it from the other form that I filled in that asks you for my name, asks you for my address, that asks you for all these things? Then they want proof of address and proof of all these things. Like once the stuff is captured once, why must you
100%.
Why must you change that?
Do you think it's a security issue?
It's not a security issue, it's a stupidity issue. It's a case
I love
of
it,
things
I love it,
aren't
I love
linked because all that information your bank has. So now you go to an insurance company and you must give the insurance company these details. You now go to a real estate company, you must give the real estate company these details. Why can't they just get it from your bank? Why can't the bank just give it to them since the bank knows all of this? And it's not like the information's wrong, because the information's wrong, you're not going to have access to your money.
Exactly.
So that's the only situation that is the issue here, is that everything isn't connected. And with Better, we connecting everything on our side.
100%.
So we do all the connection and the plan on our back end, and we just give you the front end.
So okay, cool. Let's go through a hypothetical scenario so people can get a better picture. No pun intended.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's puns here. Yeah.
So I want to get a better car. But so I want to upgrade, right? I want to get a car. What's the process? Take me through it. I want a new car.
So what Better does, we work with partners on our back end as well. Simple thing of a car, you just literally tell your phone, I want the car, and it can look at your financials and see what kind of cars you can currently afford right now based on whoever's partnered with us that has vehicles available. Literally the same day, we can have the car delivered to you with your keys. Just like that. Why not? You just choose which car you want, and you can go.
Bro.
If you want the house, you can just move into the house right now. If you want to plan for a holiday,
What about the deeds office and all of those transfers?
that stuff can get done on the back end. Why must you worry about it? You need to go live your life.
Crazy.
And that's what I think
So it is possible. Like you can.
It's completely possible. And the only issue right now is because things have to go through human hands. And humans that feel like, I don't know, let's do my job now. I want to take a tea break, a smoke break, or whatever break.
You mad? I'm on tea.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the things with computers, the back end of my computer can talk to the back end of your computer. I think another simple example is maybe you want to go on a holiday trip with you and your friends. So you can literally make a savings pocket in the app that could automatically save and invest your money for you. Where the bigger difference is now you're going to save a whole lot of cash using our app, using Better, because we save a lot of money. So we can have a deal with a travel agency where they're not having to pay a staff to sell you this travel package. They're not paying the staff to capture or to book your flights or do any of those things. Literally all our stuff happens on the back end. So if your trip was maybe 10,000 rand, right? But it's 10,000 because they have to pay all these expenses. Yeah. They can give it to us for even 5,000, right?
Wow.
So for us to also make money, we pass the savings on to you and we add a percentage on for ourselves. So we might be getting it for, I'm just making random numbers here for math's sake, calculation sake. But if we get it for 5,000, we can sell it to you for 6,000. You're still saving 4,000 rand
100%
for that whole trip, because there's no humans that need to get paid in this process. And I also want to say this isn't the case of deleting humans. It's the case of now finding other roles for humans. Of course,
because I mean the goal is for us to all just have to be creative, not having to worry about money, just to create. We are but more about this app, bro, because I'm absolutely fascinated, and I mean that sincerely. Like, because this is what I'm thinking right now. It's too good to be true. There must be a glitch. There must be that this thing is gonna fail. This probably not secure. Probably the investors are going to. This is what people are going to say. So what? How do you, as, because you know the intricacies, you know the system, you know the structure. How can you sort of put ease to those sort of minds?
Okay. First of all, before I even looked at building this team, before I told the team or whatever, we have to look at those things. We have to look at what issues are going to come about. And when I use design thinking, my first thing is talking to the people on the ground, talking to who's going to be using this. And when I talk to you, I find out it's an exercise I do called pains and gains, and that's in design thinking, to look at what do you enjoy and what don't you enjoy, and what problems do you have, and what are you doing to solve the problems currently? Or what are you doing? Are you just avoiding it? And I use that principle when it comes to banking. And I took a step back from banking. I said, what do you want to do in your life? When I did the whole design thinking stuff with our customers. And by identifying someone's issues, and this is why I don't even see Better as a bank. I see Better as a human solutions company. When I identify your issues and I see, okay, this is the problems you're having, how can I fix that problems? That's when I can start looking at what problems we might be facing on our side. So before we even build, and I think this is the case with any business, before you even spend time, money, effort into building something, you need to understand what the problem is you're trying to solve. So when you understand the problem you're trying to solve, you can start discovering problems that you might have in trying to solve this problem. And that's, I think, literally from the ground side up of what Better is about, or what any other business I work with is about,
100%.
of getting the problem solved. In the case of Better, for instance, you mentioned stuff around security, you mentioned things about these things. We literally try to look at what is working and what's the best out there. So the partners we work with is the best in their field. Some of them might not be able to mention, but when it comes to security, I can say we're looking at Gemalto. And some of the other banks have used Intersect as a security protocol. And those things have been hacked, and the
100%.
banks don't tell you that they've been hacked before and lost a couple of good millions on the back end. You as the customer don't have to worry at all because your money is insured.
Yeah.
But from our side, we try to look at what works and what is the best track record and where there might be loopholes. One of my things that I do, and I would encourage no matter what business you have, is try to break it. When you come to me with a concept, I'll try to break that concept. And it's not a case of trying to shoot down your idea. It's a case of
Let me rather break it instead of you do it and it breaks in front
how
of
do
your
I
face.
strengthen this idea? How do I take that idea and flex it to as far as I can go? And that's a case of looking at how do I hack this? How do I get the way around it? And in banking, it's extremely important because people try all the tricks.
How do you do that, Jamie, without killing your inspiration, without killing your motivation? Like, how do you I'm saying, it's very easy for someone else. No, I'm saying it's very easy for someone, for instance, someone to come to me with a business concept and for me to, tear it apart. But, I mean, you obviously, I'm talking about you individually, like how do you do that with the agency, with your businesses? Because obviously there has to be some emotional attachment, in some way, shape or form. So how are you able? Do you get other people to do it?
There definitely is that emotion, but I'll always advise people, don't get married to your idea. You know
more of a mistress.
You know your business. You know that your business is your baby and you're nurturing it. But if you're too close to it emotionally, you're not going to be able to grow. You need to make sure you're uncomfortable. Get out of the comfort zone and be uncomfortable and be receptive to criticism. And it's a case of, okay, when I look at artists, also if I relate it to music,
of course,
people can come to you and they say, oh, listen to my new song. And then then they listen and they say, oh, your song is nice. Or, oh, okay, this is okay. But a different way of doing it, if you really want to grow as an artist, take that same song and tell someone, oh, what do you think of this beat? I got this beat from somebody. They're going to be more honest with you because they're not trying to hurt your feelings. And it's not the case of them lying to you. It's a case of people care more about your feelings than what they care about your growth or your success. And it depends who you go to, whether the person you're going to is blunt enough for you. And often blunt people don't get enough recognition for being as blunt, but I think that's actually a good trait. I'll always go speak to somebody that's going to be blunt and honest with me. I prefer honesty over caring about me. And that's something I can say needs to, I can't say happen more, it's just the way that artists need to change the way they ask questions. Because people do make a lot of, from the creative side, and your mother or your family, they're your biggest fans. They're going to tell you, yes, my child, go to idols. There you go to idols and the hand will make you look like a fool.
Of course. And I do think that there needs to be this level of balance between, encouragement when you start, because no one starts off great. But also that consistent honesty. Or bluntness, you don't have to be malicious about it, but just honesty, because I think honesty is a very important aspect of love at the end of the day,
It needs to come from it needs to come from the side of the person that needs the help. So if you're the entrepreneur, business person, or artist, you need to understand that when you're asking someone for advice, it's not, whatever they say isn't from a point of malicious intent.
Of course.
And sometimes they might say something that can hurt. But you need to be able to deal, and before you even ask, don't ask to expect the answer that you want to hear.
100%.
Ask to hear something new.
Well put.
Ask to hear something that you're not expecting or understood. And if the person doesn't tell you something that you're not expecting, ask them to tell you something new.
Exactly.
Because if they're not going to do that, then there's no point in even asking.
Looking at it now, I think also there needs to be that understanding of, okay, cool, this guy's not being malicious about it. But also, if I do feel a certain way, so if I do feel like insecure or hurt, then that is a trigger for me to also understand why does that make me feel like that.
Then you need to look at yourself.
Then there's a weak link somewhere.
You need to, I wouldn't say weak link, it's just a case of introspection, of saying, because often people don't know why something can trigger them. And if someone says something that triggers you, you need to look at, so what is going on in my life that them saying them just making this point and it's hurting my feelings. You need to take that back and instead of projecting or lashing out at the person telling you, you can look at yourself and say, okay, so why does this hurt? What can I do about this hurt? And it's a case of ownership, accountability. It's very, I think that's probably, I'm saying it like it's easy, but it's so difficult to actually take ownership and accountability of your own feelings. There's something that I say that you're responsible for what you say, but you're not responsible for what the other person hears. Because it can also be a case of
misinterpretation, of course.
You can say something without malicious intent, but the other person can take that as an insult.
Especially over line, if you're chatting online, if you're chatting via social media, like you put an emoji or a voice note with it. Let me hear a laugh, so I don't know if you're serious or not. And what I also want to get into is like for creatives moving forward in this industry, right? Obviously, everything has been turned on its head with this pandemic, and it might be a good thing, with these sort of applications coming into fruition. Perfect timing, people might even say. How do you think artists can prepare for the new normal? What preparation can they do? In terms of, now we've already established they need to become a business. They need to do this and that. But how do they prepare? How do they physically, from a business point of view, from your business point of view, with your mind? Gosh. What if someone came to you and asking you for maybe three really wise pieces of advice, knowing everything looking in the future, what would you say?
I don't even think any of the advice that I know is wise. What I can say is I've got a little time management hack. And that's a case of splitting up your time into 70, 20, and 10%. And that's around looking at spending 70% of your time on what brings you the most money right now, 20% on your side hustle, and then 10% on a future goal. So 10% could be maybe your studies or you learning something new, a new skill. And the movement is when you're working with your day job or with your current thing with your 70%, when you start working the 20%, your side hustle, your whatever the other case may be, and when you start making enough money in the 20% that equals the amount of money making in 70%, you make a shift.
Okay.
That becomes your new 70%. You then have your 10% that was your long-term goal, make that a 20%, and you now find a new long-term goal. And what's going to happen to you with this cycle is you're going to have continuous growth.
100%.
You're going to keep on moving. You're going to keep on earning because facts are facts. You need cash. I'm not going to say cash is king, but I'm going to say that for you to live and to have probably a good life, depends on what you define as good, you need to have the cash. So if you know what you set your goals out to be, and I guess if cash isn't your thing, you can look at using the same principles around goals of what you're trying to achieve. But the 70-20-10 rule works for me, and that's something I would advise to anyone also.
I think it's amazing, and I think these sort of tricks will help creatives find structure, because that is something that I've personally witnessed, is that they just
you said the keyword right there. It's the structure.
They lack structure.
Yeah.
And I just think also what's important, with that 70-20-10 is maybe also because I think that works long term only if whenever that shift happens, right, you need to when your side hustle becomes your full-time thing, it needs to be something you fucking love.
Yeah.
That's the only way that works, because even if you're doing that constant growth and that side hustle became but you don't actually you were just doing the side hustle to make money, now you're making, there's no space in that 100% for happiness, so you actually wasted all of your time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
There's a quote from Oprah around that also.
Exactly.
If you're happy, you're not going to work a day in your life.
Exactly. So if you're working 100%, you need that 70% if for anything else to invest back into that 20% in some way, shape or form. Once you then equal that revenue and then you make that shift, right? It's easy. It's plain sailing from them, because now every day you're doing something that you love. So you're doing 70% of what you enjoy.
It could be a case of your day job is something you love as well. So
of course.
Love can come at any point.
Of course, 100%.
That's something I would always encourage.
But for me, they wouldn't. I mean, if you really love your job and there wouldn't be a need for the shift. So I'm saying if you, and this is the people that we're talking about that's on the table. It's the people that have a gift, right? And that gift is that 20%, right? And they're working at a job that they don't necessarily hate, but it's not their calling, it's not their purpose. They can't see themselves spending 30 years doing this. They then invest that 20% in something that they're gifted and willing and humbly and willing to saying, you know what, even if I'm making less money, this is worth it, man. The value that it's going to add to my life, my quality of life in terms of how I'm going to treat people, how I'm going to serve others, how I'm going to wake up in the morning, how I'm going to spend my time with other people. That is more important. So now when they make that shift, they are totally transformed human beings. And I think that, in fact, is how we change the world, Mr. Jamie Thurston Wyngaard.
Just also don't make that shift too soon.
Canala, please. Because we're in a recession already, please.
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of people that want to jump straight into business.
Of course.
And you end up failing because you end up having all this financial stress because you left your day job, you left your job, and now you a full-time
chef.
Yeah.
Oh, and now you're making bad business decisions because you're relying on money.
Yep. Don't work too fast. Rather make sure you get your plan sorted out and get your structure sorted out. And that's one thing I've noticed a lot in the creative industry, that not everyone can sort their plans out. 100%. And that might be a case of get someone that can help you do it. Come speak to Chad here to help you with your planning.
Well, I think you're the guy to speak to. But with that said, Jamie, it's been an absolute blast. I've learned so much from this interview. We're definitely going to have you back here for some more hacks, some more of that genius that's going on.
Retard, actually. I see myself as a retard.
Before I ask my last question, brother, please tell people where they can find you.
Easiest place, I would say Insta maybe. That's just, I don't know. If you go to Facebook, you'll just see memes all the time. But Jamie Thurston Wyngaard is my Insta handle. Jamie Thurston Wyngaard. Don't add me on Facebook. I don't accept if I don't know who you are. You can easily send me an email, jamie@wearetheagency.co.za. You can go to our website as well, wearetheagency.co.za. There's also a blog that we have to help with resources. Our information is all free there. So if you start in the business, if you want to get business ideas, go to wearetheagency.co.za. There's a blog that helps you look at things around social media, things around starting the business, things around setting up ideas, things around the rule of thirds. There's a whole lot of information there.
Awesome.
There's articles about Elon Musk, articles about Oprah, articles about Warren Buffett and how to invest. So we've got a lot of resources for anyone out there. And you can even just, on the website, if you don't remember my name, We Are The Agency. I think it's super easy to remember. You can just message the website even, or find us on Facebook or something.
Awesome, bro. Last question, brother. How do we make this creative industry a better place?
Sure, you're asking me now. When it comes to better place, do you mean?
Yeah, again, like better. That better's just everywhere. You guys were clever with the name.
Good name. Yeah. I think it's more a case of those that are able set out a nice foundation, so that you can set out a foundation for people to come and join you. In a case, if I look at just backtracking full circle with us, when I met you and when I started working with you, it was a case of knowing that I've got a platform and I can share this, because I'm not able to go stand on that stage and sing all the songs myself. So I guess for the industry, it's also a case of constantly evolving. So look for opportunities. And if you're serious about your craft, work on your craft. Work on your skills as an artist. Because no one wants to pay for things if you're crap. There's a whole thing of people saying, when they compare, there's no support for local artists. No, I don't think that's the case. There might be less support for local artists, but if you're good at what you're doing, people are going to come forward.
100%.
There's also the saying that the prophet isn't recognized in their hometown, but then you can also look at how come other artists are thriving, how come other South African artists are doing it, because they put in the work. If you look at international
and they got
artists,
the business side down.
Yeah. If I compare international artists, people think, oh, look, Beyonce, she's got it easy. No, Beyonce works her ass off. Literally all the people that you can mention, even Kanye West, I think, there's some things there, but he works hard.
100%.
And that's why they are where they are, not because they just fell in the lap, but they had to work with these things. And a lot of people, from artists to business or whatever, it might be that they seem like things are too glamorous, because the people that have made it makes it look so easy
Yeah.
and makes it look so glamorous. Even entrepreneurs that aren't making it are faking it till they make it, and people looking at them thinking, oh, look at this good life, look how easy they have it. Dude, with me, even myself, I had to go through a lot of things that, gosh, I can unpack. We don't even have another hour here, but I can unpack at all the issues I had to go through.
Of course.
And I'll definitely apologize if I made it look too easy, but it's not easy. And I think a lot of
100%.
artists first need to
We all
realize
know that.
it's not easy to get there.
There's adversity, there's struggle, and I think that's where we grow, that's how we evolve, and that's how we get better at the end of the day. Mr. Jamie Wyngaard, Thurston Wyngaard, sorry. You see,
No problem,
I told you I was dyslexic before the show.
Yeah, team dyslexic over here.
Listen, brother, this has been an absolute blast. Before I go, I just want to say that I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you are doing, not only for creatives, but entrepreneurs, small businesses. Continue to do what you do, and
Thank you
most
so
importantly...
much. I'm the one that should be thanking you for actually inviting me, thinking of me.
Of course,
I
bro.
don't think I'm worth even your time, but thank you for having me.
No problem, bro. And most importantly, keep shining.
Awesome. Thanks.